Dibsy's joining me here on set. A browse through the French headlines for you, of course. The paper's leading here in France, though, not with a French story, but with that ongoing unrest in Iran.
That's right. It's making a lot of the front pages here in France and around the world. Libération, the left-leaning French daily, is running with it on its front page, calling it a loud cry. Now, a loud cry in French is un cri persan, which is obviously a play on words of the word Persian. 12 people have died in that protest movement in Iran that's entering its 6th day now. Libé says the protest has hit a level not seen since 2009, when Iranians took to the streets to protest the re-election of the then ultra-conservative leader Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Well, this time they're protesting against Hassan Rouhani, who was actually seen as somebody more moderate and who, for many, hasn't failed to deliver on those promises of bettering the economy. Now, protesters are essentially taking over his beard, his trademark beard, as you see here in a cheeky cartoon from Libé's cartoonist Willem. The paper's editors do say, though, it's too early to tell if this, quote, wave of anger will swell to the point that it may upset or even overthrow the ruling government.
Yeah, so 2018 getting off to that pretty rocky start in Iran. A lot of the papers also looking at what the year is going to bring in terms of geopolitics.
Well, it's not just Iran. There were a lot of bubbling issues towards the end of 2017 that will no doubt be decided or continue into 2018. There are, quote, high stakes for other ongoing crises, like the continued nuclear threats from North Korea, the Russian presidential election, and the next stage of the Brexit talks. Le Figaro, the French right-leaning paper, is looking at this. They're also wondering here in France if there'll be a more progress on issues like political parties in France. Will they finally get their act together and form a formidable opposition to Emmanuel Macron, whether unemployment will reduce? And they're also speculating about what 2018 will bring in terms of national security here in France. L'Humanité, the communist paper, is also taking a look at what's going to happen in 2018. They're running a rather joyous front page, but it belies a more cynical message from the editors. The paper's editorial says New Year's wishes for happiness, good health and peace must be accompanied by wishes for continuing social combats. In particular, they say workers, the unemployed, pensioners and local associations will be the first to suffer from the effects of Emmanuel Macron's, quote, disastrous decisions.
Now, Le Parisien, Deputy Sound of Peace in Le Parisien, also looking at the new year, in particular the big topics that are surely going to dominate politics and the headlines here in France in the next few weeks and months.
And it's really cute what they've done. They've put little labels next to each hot topic. So one issue, for instance, that the government will deal with is reforming the tax system so that taxes are deducted from the source income, which is currently not the case. So Le Parisien says, well, that's going to be a, quote, hot topic. Another hot button issue will be an independence referendum in the French collectivity of New Caledonia. That's something to look out for. It'll take place sometime between now and November. Now, something that's not just hot but perilous is the issue of migrants and what to do with how many to welcome and where to house them and how to process them.
Commemorations is something that's going to crop up a lot in France this year, isn't it? We do a lot of them here in France, actually, don't we?
France is actually quite a fan of commemorations. La Croix, the Catholic paper, is actually looking at this. They call it the flame of commemorations. Now, 2018 will mark the 50th anniversary of the May 1968 social protests. It'll mark the centennial of the end of the First World War and the 170th anniversary since the Declaration of Human Rights was made. It's quite interesting because La Croix is looking into what it calls the psychology of this commemoration. Each French president in the past has used it to shape their presidency. So Nicolas Sarkozy, for him, it was a chance to plead for a, quote, eternal France, while François Hollande took a direction of trying to mend old wounds, build bridges by focusing on peace and reconciliation. Well, remains to be seen what kind of direction Emmanuel Macron will be taking.
We shall see. Coming weeks will tell us. Finally, we're going to end with a tale that looks back at 2017, in particular New Year revellers. They're in New Zealand. They got a little bit creative, didn't they, with an alcohol ban?
Very creative indeed. Kiwi authorities, preempting any drunken behaviour on New Year's Eve, decided to ban alcohol in public places and on the beach in Coromandel Peninsula in the north. Well, this wasn't quite to the taste of a group of holidaymakers. They decided to create an island in the middle of the peninsula, saying that this island was, once the tide was up, was technically in international waters and therefore exempt from the alcohol band. They even had like a little mini picnic. They brought along a cooler.
Looks
and
like they set up their own government.
It does seem very autonomous. They even, of course, they also had their much desired alcohol. But you know what? It seems like their ingenuity has gotten some really far-reaching compliments. The local mayor said it represented what she loved about people from the area, their inventive spirit. While the local police commander, he said if he had known about it, he probably would have joined them.
I'm very glad that they've taken it in the right spirit.
That's right.
Exactly.
All good fun.
Exactly. Dipti. Thanks very much, Dipti. Here with the French papers here on France 24. She'll have the international ones, of course, in a couple of hours' time for you.